Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So while I was editing that single 8 footage I took in Tokyo, I felt super nostalgic about my trip back in 2019 to Japan, and I thought, why not, since I have so much footage and photos I took from there, to walk you through my journey and show you what I captured. Just bear in mind I was shooting both digital and film at the time, and yeah, it's going to be a mix of both film and digital. This particular part is only digital as I was moving to shooting more film later in the trip. But yeah, you're gonna see both. Like I said, it was such a fun trip, probably my favorite that I've been on recently. And yeah, I'm stoked to bring you guys along and show you what I got up to. We ended up being super lucky and had a friend in Tokyo, which was the first place we stayed in Japan. My sister's friend from uni lived there in a district called Asakusa, in a house there. So yeah, we ended up staying with his family, and they were so hospitable. They would make us breakfast in the morning, coffee, so knowledgeable about Japan as well. So they gave us so many tips about what we could do and places to see. And yeah, it was just a joy to have them around as well. So yeah, that was a kind of a good start to the trip, I guess. Like I said, where we were staying was a place called Asakusa, and it retains this older sort of vibe to it, and it's very famous for one of the temples there called Sensoji Temple. We got to Japan in the nighttime and had a good rest, and then our first day we actually started it off by looking around Asakusa. His dad was very kindly offered to show us around. He was super knowledgeable about Japan and about all the different traditions and the history. So it was very insightful to hear his perspective and hear his thoughts on the country and the place, the local area that they had been living in for a long time. So yeah, that was a great start of the day before we headed elsewhere. I do find when I first get to a new country and I'm going to take photos, it takes me a little while to get warmed up. And also I like to take in my surroundings and just try and enjoy the kind of first moments of being in a new country and take it all in before I kind of get too carried away with shooting. I didn't take many photos in that first morning, so I took a bit more footage, I guess. And yeah, here's some footage of us kind of going into some of the temples and taking part in some of the traditions. So afterwards we grabbed a train and made our way to Shibuya, to a place called Harajuku Jingume. These names are going to be hard to pronounce. Disclaimer, I'm probably going to butcher a bunch of Japanese names, so please forgive me, especially if you're from Japan. Yeah. If you're into streetwear, I definitely recommend hitting this spot up. Harajuku as a whole is a very good place to shop, but that part of town is super good for streetwear, and it hosts some of my favorite labels, including Noah. I think W Taps is there, Carhartt, and yeah, a bunch of kind of unique Japanese brands as well. So yeah, definitely check that place out. It started to rain again, and I managed to capture some nice frames of people walking around with their umbrellas. I quite like these ones as well, because a lot of them in the photos, the people were smiling, and it's got that kind of good vibe to them. And yeah, it was a nice way to get warmed up. There was quite a lot of people concentrated in that area, so you can be quite discreet and get some sneaky shots in there. So at this point we got pretty hungry and decided to head to this ramen spot I knew nearby. I'd visited Japan in 2017, so there's a few things that I knew about that I enjoyed on my first trip that I kind of checked out again, and that ramen spot was definitely one of them. There's a bit of a queue, but it's definitely worth waiting in that queue and enjoying the yummy ramen. Afterwards we headed to Yoyogi Koen Station, which was not too far from where we were in Harajuku. So nearby Yoyogi Koen Station is this parade of curated vintage shops, and I actually found these shops when I was first there there in 2017 because I was staying nearby in a hostel called Alman Hostel. Yeah, so I was pretty lucky to stumble upon them, and they've got a great selection of just like this incredible quality curated vintage pieces that I really enjoyed and spent quite a bit of money on my first trip. So I was with my sister and I thought it'd be cool to show her all the different kind of shops there. When I'm in Japan, I find I'm really drawn to shooting street photography, as I'm sure a lot of people are, based on like the great architecture and the amount of people that are about. I'd say as well, my admiration runs wild for the attention to detail and all the urban areas. Just like everything's a lot smaller, a lot more detailed, and yeah, I just seem to prefer it. I guess with Brisbane, everything's a bit Americanized and big and kind of lavish that way. So it's nice to see that attention to detail and that different kind of urban surroundings. I don't want to be making excuses for myself, but when I'm in Brisbane, I'm never really drawn to shooting street photography, as there's normally not very many people about as well. The urban surroundings aren't that interesting to shoot. Maybe if I went to Melbourne, or if I lived in Melbourne or Sydney, it'd be different, but I find this city in Australia isn't really catered for that type of photography. Let me know if you do shoot street photography in Brisbane. I'd love to see your work and if that's worth experimenting with. But yeah, that's kind of why I've been drawn to shooting more of the coastal aesthetic with my photos and traveling on more adventures to kind of more nature filled areas, I guess. It wouldn't be a day out in Shibuya if we didn't end up at the Shibuya crossing to watch the intersection and the crazy amounts of people around. So yeah, we headed there kind of after that. Obviously, it's a very touristy spot, but there's kind of some magic to it when you're crossing the roads with hundreds of people that you can't quite match with anything else. I've been actually thinking what a place like that's going to be like post-COVID. You know, there's obviously going to be less people there. Also, people aren't probably going to be that thrilled about hitting those hot spots with tons of people at anymore. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people are just going to revert back to how it was, but yeah, I just see things running a bit different in a kind of hot spot like that. The following morning we headed to Ginza, which is the kind of the shopping district of Tokyo, very commercial, that lavish kind of upscale shopping side of things, but we weren't there for those reasons. We actually went to see the Ginza crossing, which is another intersection known for being super busy and having a lot of people coming across it, as well as being photographed quite a lot from different perspectives because it's got these great kind of leading lines, and yeah, just looks very cool. Upon researching the local area, I actually found this building where we could take photos from the top of it from. I forget what it's called, but maybe I'll put it in the description, so if you were to go you can check it out. But yeah, it was a very kind of cool place to check out because it was like this garden rooftop, a lot of green foliage, and there was a cafe there as well, so it was a nice place to kind of take a break as well as take some photos of the city from that high perspective. I was not overly enjoying the images I was taking there, so I decided it might be better to head back there later at night when all the lights, all the buildings and stuff are lit up, and yeah, maybe some more people crossing the road as well. Afterwards we headed to a fish market. I found I was bouncing between photography and videography that day, so I didn't get any photos, but I got some footage of this spot. Also as well, one thing to note while we're talking about footage, I did make a cool kind of Japan edit from the footage that I did capture. So if you want to see that, I'm going to link it above for you to check it out. So with coffee in hand, we made our way to this park that I can't pronounce, so I'm just going to leave the name up here for you. You've got these green gardens situated around Tokyo. There's such a juxtaposition against the cityscape. But yeah, it gives you a nice break from that kind of hustle and bustle from the city and allows you to take in the nature a bit more, which I always enjoy. Anyone obsessed with nature would be pretty taken back by just the amount of different colors of green you could find in this park, as well as the different amount of trees. This park is actually well known for its wooden tea houses, as well as the bridges that spread across the landscape. I was really enjoying shooting at this point and trying to get different perspectives from inside and outside the tea houses and from across the bridges as well, the nice foliage around. There was definitely moments on this trip where I thought I was a bit of an influencer and was feeling myself a little bit. So apologies for those moments of self-indulgence. Yeah, won't happen again, I promise. So like I mentioned before, we headed back to the Ginza crossing to get some more night shots, and I was pretty stoked with how some of these photos came out, especially some of the footage that I managed to grab. And there was a few other photographers there, so it was interesting to see what they were shooting and how they were shooting. It was definitely a jam-packed couple first days, so the next morning to mid-morning we decided to take a little break and just hang out at the house a bit, and then in the afternoon we decided to head to Roppongi, to the Mori Art Museum. Not only did we want to go there for the museum, but it also hosted this incredible kind of viewing point of the city that you could see the Tokyo Tower as well, which is the red Eiffel Tower-esque looking building. So it had this amazing kind of viewpoint of that and the rest of the city. Just a little bit of information as well. The Tokyo Tower is the second tallest structure in Japan, second to the Tokyo Sky Tree, which is almost twice as big, which is pretty interesting. After taking some snaps and checking out the viewing point, we headed down into the museum. And yeah, there were some interesting exhibitions going on. Definitely check out that museum. It's like one of my favorite places to hit up because you get the combination of the viewing point and the museum. I definitely think one of my regrets this trip was not checking out enough museums. I think Japan hosts some of the most creatively kind of pushing boundaries kind of people. So yeah, I definitely next time want to check out and do a bit more research into that. I guess I was focusing on more of photographing kind of outside nature and urban surroundings. So later that night we decided to hit full tourist mode and head to Shibuya Crossing, my friend Nobu's car, and we obviously had to play Tokyo Drift by the Teriyaki Boys. and I was hanging out the window taking photos. But yeah, I'm not totally proud about that moment in time, but it happened, and I'm just gonna have to live with that. In saying that, there's nothing that quite replicates driving around Tokyo at night with all the neon signs, and just the ambience and the vibes are just crazy. I kind of wish I was shooting film at this point so I could shoot through a lot of Cinestill 800T or even some Portrait 800. It would go off in that kind of area, as you probably would know if you traveled to those kind of spots. But yeah, so yeah, that was the end of that day. So on our 4th day in Tokyo, we decided to catch a train to Nikko for the day. Nikko is a small town based in Japan's Tochigi prefecture in the northern part of Japan, which is home of the famed Shinto shrine, which is the lavish memorial of a founding ruler from the Edo period. It was raining as we arrived in Nikko, and it consistently drizzled throughout the day. Combined with that misty sky, it created this eerily moody kind of imagery. Being in the mountains, there was a luscious amount of green around, and it had this kind of countryside kind of vibe to it as well. This particular shot definitely caught my eye. You had the minivan kind of like engrossed in a lot of greenery, and you had the mist and the mountains in the back, and I think they complemented each other quite well. This was another moment where I wish I was shooting film. I think this moment would have been complemented quite nicely with that film kind of esque look to it. We ended up stopping at a smaller shrine, and at the entrance to the shrine was a water fountain looking structure. I can't pronounce the name of what it's called, but I'm just going to leave it up here again. I was interested to know why they were kind of around a lot of places, and I found out that you use the water to clean and purify your hands and your mouth. So next we ventured further into Nikko, and we stopped at the Shinkyo bridge. I managed to convince my sister to take a photo of me on the bridge. It didn't come out as profound as I wanted it to be. You can see me there in the orange looking quite small. But yeah, I enjoyed the image. There was a nice pop of orange color there, and yeah, it was just a nice kind of memory looking back at that as well. The rain definitely did not stop that whole day. It got a little bit frustrating because we were queuing up to the temples and just getting stuck in it, and people were hitting each other's umbrellas by accident, and it was just a bit much. But I definitely want to head back to Nikko another time when the weather's a bit better, and check out some of the local surroundings and check out more of the city itself. So that was the end of part 1 of the trip. Like I said, I shot a lot of digital and didn't shoot that much film. But later on in the trip, I headed down to Kyoto and hit up a bunch of these like rural countryside villages that were absolutely incredible. Yeah, probably my favorite part of the trip. And I shot a lot of film, and I got into the groove of doing that. So those images I enjoyed a lot more. I think you might too as well. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you stopping by. If you enjoyed this video and you're looking forward to seeing the other parts of Japan, definitely subscribe and hit that notification bell. But yeah, thanks so much for watching again, and I'll see you next time.